Hello, hello, hello. I'm talking to all my men out there. I'm Ryan Turner, your registered dietitian. We're talking about the big T. We're talking about testosterone. This is something that is not only important to men, but it is important to women too, because women use testosterone also. But it's more important in men because testosterone is one of our most abundant hormones, and as we age, we can lose that. And why is it important? Why would you care if you start losing things like testosterone? I'm going to share with you 5 ways that you can make sure that you don't do that. And then at the end here, I want to make sure I'm going to share with you how specific foods are actually going to end up affecting your overall testosterone. So I'm going to start with number 1. Number 1 is going to be making sure that you evaluate your diet to support something like a healthy body fat percentage. Now, the bigger issue here is that if we eat in a way that promotes something like an increase in abdominal obesity or abdominal body fat, what's going to be happening is that we increase our body's ability to actually make more aromatase. And aromatase is going to be something that is now going to increase really the biosynthesis of things just like estrogen, right? Specifically estradiol. And that estradiol is then going to lower our free testosterone, and that is going to make us have less testosterone. Again, leading to depression, less strength, erectile dysfunction, poor sleep patterns. So we don't want that kind of thing. Now, the other thing too, when we're evaluating your diet, stop eating low-fat diets. Now, no one really needs to be on a low-fat diet unless I've discussed it with you, and maybe something like familial hyperlipidemia is something that we have to work with. So there is a certain percentage of population that might need a lower fat diet, but a low fat diet is definitely something that's not going to support your overall hormone production. Fat helps produce hormones, also helps us absorb nutrients, but we want to make sure that we're not eating a low fat diet. I want you also to think about evaluating your diet and eating foods or eating in a way that's going to just control your blood sugar. Whenever we have large spikes of blood sugar, it can actually increase things like cortisol, our stress hormone. And our stress hormone is associated with reducing our testosterone. Now, number 2 is something you can do in terms of activity and exercise. And that's by making sure that you're not only doing one thing that many people have. And if you are a product or someone that grew up in maybe the 80s into the 90s, something like you just doing high amounts of cardio might be working against you. If we're doing these very high amounts of cardio, we're doing things that are just only focused on endurance training, and we're not really focusing on muscle or anything that can give us a resistance, that can increase our cortisol levels and decrease even things like our muscle mass. And that, we're gonna move on to number 3, sleep. You've heard about it. Sleep better, sleep more. Our body actually releases the most testosterone as we sleep. And at different times of our sleep too, as we get into some deeper stages of sleep, while our brain and our body is recovering. Remember that as we sleep, we go through these 90-minute cycles where we go from basically stage 1 through stage 4 into our REM, and then we kind of go back again. So you want to make sure that you're not just sleeping the amount that you need, and usually less than 8 hours on average is associated with 15% less reduction, 15 less percent production of testosterone. So I want to make sure that you end up getting enough sleep, but also make sure that you're sleeping deep enough. Let's move on to number 4. And this is going to be something I've kind of already touched on, but it's going to be stress reduction. If you end up being someone who is in a stressful relationship, a stressful job, living in a stressful city, these low grades of stress can actually increase cortisol, and as I mentioned before, it can reduce your overall testosterone. So doing things like journaling, doing things like improving your sleep, making sure that you're doing things also just like exercise, doing things that are going to help you just stay more calm, possibly meditation, but make sure that you're doing things that can make you feel a little bit more mindful. Number 5 is going to be making sure that you look at any underlying medical conditions. Now, these underlying medical conditions can do things like increase stress, and they can kind of affect things like your blood sugar, but you want to make sure that we end up looking at a few here, 3 in particular, that are going to usually be associated with lower levels of testosterone. Diabetes type 2. That's going to be something we used to be called adult onset diabetes, but this is something we see in younger generations right now. We want to make sure though that you're looking to improve your diabetes, and not just with medication, because just taking metformin versus controlling your diabetes through diet has actually not been shown to improve your testosterone. Number 2 is going to be your sleep apnea. We want to make sure that we're just taking care of that. So you want to talk to your doctor, make sure that they understand, check the width of your neck, which is very associated with sleep apnea. See if you need a CPAP just for sleep to sleep better. Evaluate your environment, get your sleep down. If you have apnea, it's going to end up being an issue in terms of your testosterone. Finally, just metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome being things just like your waist circumference, knowing that you end up having a higher BMI, a higher weight, higher body fat percentage. We want to make sure that we're reducing anything that's associated with metabolic syndrome, because that's only going to put more stress on your body, all right? Those are 5 things that can be helpful for you to attenuate any testosterone loss as you age. Now, I want to touch on lastly about any food that is going to help increase your testosterone. I'm going to tell you this, and I wish there was a big X here saying that no foods by themselves are ever going to increase your testosterone on their own. Now, certain foods can be associated with controlling blood sugar or reducing stress, but they're never on their own. So when you see lists, things like pomegranate, or you see things like onion, or you see things like ginger, those are going to be things that can be part of an eating style that can help you reduce your or help just keep testosterone at appropriate levels. So do me a favor, don't focus on specific foods, focus on your lifestyle habits that are going to support you to not have lower testosterone. Anyway guys, I'm Ryan Turner, your registered dietitian. Let me know if you got any questions.